Oh, there we go. It's time. I'll post my question in the chat. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this February mini school. This is our first mini school for the year of 2026, and a very special welcome and thank you to Dr. Sunday Oladejo. I hope I say that acceptably. Very special welcome and thank you very much for taking this school. I can see that what you are about to present is definitely very popular and very necessary because there's people from a huge amount of institutions. I've counted now at least 26 universities, and it looks like we're going to get to about 50 universities, different countries. It really is very interesting. So programming basics with Python. People aren't here to listen to me, so I can see we are close to being over 300 people in this. Maybe what I could do is, could we maybe, Sunday, you can choose if you're happy to take questions as you go, or if you want to keep them until the end. If maybe you want people to pop them in the Q&A or in the chat, because sometimes while you giving the lecture, other people can answer questions for other guys or people. Okay, so wonderful. Over to you. Thank you so much once again. And then this is then the first installment. The next we have the 11th, the 18th, and the 25th of February, 2 to 3 every Wednesday. Thank you so much. Over to you, Sunday. And again, a warm welcome to everybody. And just a quick advertisement. If you are not yet on the NITheCS mailing list, please go to nithecs.ac.za. I'll type it in the chat now. Please join, because then you will have wonderful opportunities like this that you can join and, of course, tell your friends that can benefit from this kind of free learning. And remember that this will be posted to the YouTube channel afterwards. By tonight, it will be up. So then you can, if maybe you have to step away for a moment or you missed a section of it, it will be there. Okay, Sunday, welcome again. Thank you, everybody, and over to you.
All right. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Sunday, and at the moment, I'm privileged to be the chair for the Standard Bank Lab for Recommender Systems here at the School for Data Science and Computational Thinking at Stellenbosch University. So for today's session, we'll do a brief introduction. We'll discuss the programming environment. We would also touch on the data types and operations as well, and then variables. If we have time enough, we'll look into arrays, and also how to create arrays. For this session, if you have questions, just pop your question. Let me just select on. Okay, you can type in your question and then I would answer your question. I'll try as much as possible to answer all the questions within the space of the time we have. All right, so let's go into what we have today, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, so I will turn off my camera for bandwidth purposes. All right, thank you. Okay, so what is programming? And that's why we are here. I'll give a brief back introduction to what is programming. If you can see my screen, can you give a thumbs up or a clap so that I can proceed? All right. So what is programming? And thank you all. I can see your the thumbs up, the likes. So what is programming? It is a process of creating a set of instructions and telling the computer or your system, or simply put, your computer, on how to perform a particular task. So it's simply instructing your computer in order for it to perform a task. All right. Um, but for this, for generally for programming and for, I would sometimes use the word coding or programming. They are not the same. However, uh, which I will show you later on, but we can use them interchangeably. So similarly to you having being a chef, as a chef, you would need a kitchen to prepare cuisines, delicacies, and the likes. So for programming or for coding, as the case may be, we would need an integrated development environment. It is similar to the kitchen for a chef. And so within the IDE environment, that's where we will, or programmers do their coding. And what this is exactly what you have a chef in the kitchen doing all, that. So for programming, you will do that in an integrated environment, or rather, it's rather called an IDE. So in an IDE, you do your coding, you also handle source codes. That's where you build your process, you structure your project, you also do debugging. So simply put, the IDE, it's where we do our coding. That's where you get your hands dirty. If you are cool with this definition of an IDE or a simple explanation of the IDE and what programming is all about, give a thumbs up before I proceed um, into the different types of IDEs that we have. All right. Okay. So we have different types of IDEs. Um, we have the Microsoft Visual Studio, you have AWS, you have CodeLine. Um, just 1 minute. So you have Google Colab and the likes, just as you can see on the screen, right? But we will get to know this as we proceed. But like I said, there are different types of ID, but we're particular in for this workshop, we'll be looking to the notebook IDs. And you might wonder why not the traditional integrated development environment, just such as Visual Studio or JetBrains and IntelliJ and the likes. Um, when it comes to notebook IDs, right, it's an integrated environment or interactive um, environment where you don't need to go through the troubles of setting up the environment. Um, it's easy to use. It's similar to what we know as a plug and play, right? So we have different types of notebook IDs. For this workshop, we would use the Google Colab environment. All right. If you've used the Google Colab environment, if you haven't used Google Colab environment before now, give a thumbs up in, in the chat so I know. If you haven't used Google Colab before now, just all right, that's fine. All right. Okay, good. All right, Mugadi says Palesa Malima. I haven't used it before. It's fine. So, and that's why we are here. So for us to use Google Colab, um, go to your browser and type Google Colab. Go to your browser, right, as you see on the screen, and type Google Colab. Google Colab. type in Google Colab and then click on it. If you have typed in Google Colab, click on Google Colab just as you, and let me know if you have it on your screen. Okay, can see some thumbs up. Fine, that's good, that's cool. Yep. All right. So I'll click on Google Colab environment, and this is what you would. All right. So you would have this environment. Google Colab is the same thing as the Google Collaboratory. For short, it's called Google Colab, right? So um it requires no setup, and it provides free resources such as GPUs, and TPUs, and that's why you'll find developers or programmers, as the case may be, they'll use Google Colab because it comes with free resources, GPUs as and TPUs as well. Now, in the Google Colab environment, you have Open Colab, you have the button for New Notebook. Because for this workshop, or perhaps for those who haven't used Google Colab before, you would rather click on Notebooks. But thereafter, after this class, you definitely click on Open Colab to access your, saved or previous notebooks. All right. So I'll click on New Notebook. Click on New Notebook, and let's start the workshop. It takes a while. It will load. If you have this environment, because I use this a lot, mine, you have Untitled 82, yours might be Untitled 1. And if you have this screen, give a thumbs up, and then we proceed. All right, that's fine. Let's wait for just a minute for others who haven't. Um, so for those who joined us late, go to Google, to your web browser, type Google Colab, click on Google Colab, and then it will bring you here. All right, fine. So this is the environment. This is our IDE environment, integrated development environment. And this environment is similar to what you have for those who are conversant with GUIs, graphical user interface, or Windows um, applications. You have a file, you have the menu. On the menu, you have file, edit, view, insert, runtime, and someone is asking how long is this session? This session is going to be 1 hour, but it's good that I introduce the environment. We only have 2 minutes to do the introduction for the environment. All right, so we have the menu, which is on the menu you have file, edit, view, insert, runtime, tools, and the likes. So for files, just like in other, you can save, you can download your script, you can rename your script or your file. And now I'll start with the download, right? So when we are through with all of this, we would download our script. Our file can also be called script. Now, so you have two formats for downloading. Could be IPYNB, which the IPYNB means Interactive Python Notebook, and the traditional .py, which for Python. Then you can as well save, and this you would later on see as you proceed in the workshop. All right, you can edit, and then I'll also show you runtime, which is quite important. For runtime, you can manage your sessions and the resources. Let me quickly come back to. You can manage your resources. You can change your runtime type. For instance, if you click on runtime and click on change runtime time, you can then decide on the type of resources you want to make use. Right. At the moment, we have the traditional CPU and then as well our GPUs. If I click on T for GPUs, then definitely I'll be using the Google Colab GPUs for free. But for now, I'll use CPUs. Okay. Someone saying haven't downloaded, haven't found it down. Is this? Yes, I'll share the slides later on. I'll share the slides will also be the script. I will share that. I will attach that the link to that before the end of today's session. May you kindly enlarge your screen if possible. Okay, I'll try to do that a bit. Okay, so I've done that. Now let's proceed into to okay, the menu screen doesn't appear. If you can see my screen, give a thumbs up with the menu, file, edit, view, insert, runtime tools, help. If you can see clearly, give a thumbs up and then we shoot. Okay, good. So we start with the first thing you want to do, right? Um, just before I do my typing in, we have you have a box here that you can see. This is rather called a cell. So in this environment, you type in your codes within the cells, right? There are two types of cells. For you to know the two types of cell, GPU means graphical. Okay, I'll go into the GPU. GPU, you just missed it's not GU, graphical user interface. No, that's for GUI. For it's the processing unit, which we'll talk about later on. All right. So we have two types of cells. We have the cells for code and cells for typing text. So when you directly instruct the computer on what to do, you use your code. But when you want for readability purposes, we use the text. Now I'll show you what it means to use the text. And how do you go up to see this? Okay. All right. So we have two. Like as I said, you have the code cells and also the text cells. For you to use a code text, take your mouse and just run it on the cell. You'll find this. And someone said, we cannot see your screen clearly. Oh, increased. Can you see it clearly now? If you can see it clearly, can you give a thumbs up? We don't really have that time. So we have two cells. We have the code, and then we have for the text. For you to see this, just move your mouse on top of, clearly on the cell, and then you will see you don't need to click, and then you see. So for us to have a new cell, if you you decide which of either of the two. For me to have a new code cell, I'll click on this, and it gives me a new code cell, right? Um, Now let's go into let's get our hands dirty. The first thing you want to do when you write when you have um, coding to do or programming stuff is to load libraries. So in Python we load libraries. Libraries are like they help you to perform certain functionalities within the environment, not only within the Google Colab environment, but generally in Python. It helps you to load functionalities, but those functionalities come in the form of libraries, right? Simply put, in libraries. So for you, the first thing to do is you want to import your library. So you type in import, we have several types of libraries in Python. For this workshop, for this session, on the first session, we will use the numerical Python library. That the numerical Python library is also called NumPy library, NumPy. So I'll type in NumPy and I'll create an alias for it. So I will import NumPy as NP. Now, because this is um, beside your cell, you find a button, a play button. That play button is the same thing as when you click on it, it will run that cell. So if I click on this, then it runs my cell. It takes a while, and then you find this moving icon round showing that it is running. And when it is done, you find a tick um, symbol here showing that this numerical Python has been, imported. This is taking a while. Um, um, we have other types of library, but now you have a button showing the number of the time it takes to run this, and then the green tick button showing that this is okay. It's done. Um, that's completed this particular operation. And this operation, the first thing you do, like I said, is you want to load all your libraries. But for this session, we need the numerical Python libraries, which is otherwise called NumPy. So you use the keyword import and then the name of the library and the alias. We have several types of libraries, pandas, Seaborn, matplotlib. You will see that later on as we progress in this. So there, and then um, I'll quickly play with the text cell just for us to work on the different data types. Now let's move on to data types. Data types. Now there are different types of data types. I will share this, I'll share um, my script with you so that, but I will also want you to practice as we go along. So I'll switch on to, because of time, to another, which is, please don't bother about all of this. It's for explanational, but I'll share this with you as well. So we have different, just as we have in languages, you have grammatical structure when it comes to languages, right? Um, Different languages have its own. Um, when I'm in languages now, English, Swahili, German, French, it has its own structure. Now, for this language, Python has its own structure. It has its own syntax. It has its own rules. So the first thing we want to talk about is the data types in programming. Generally, programming languages have their data types, and this is peculiar to all programming languages. We have the text. So what do I mean by text? Text, text, for text, those are strings. They're rather called, or at the same time called strings. These are alphabets, joined together, right? So these are text. And we also have numbers. Numbers are also called numerics. Recall that in normal mathematics, or generally in mathematics, we have numbers, we have whole numbers, such as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And at the same time, we have floats, decimal points. We have floats, decimal points, right? Decimal points in Python or in programming languages are called floats. decimal points are called floats. And then whole numbers are called integers. Rather, what you have here, int stands for whole numbers or integers. And then for decimal points, you have otherwise called floats. Okay. Let's go to this. Sorry. Just 1 minute. Okay. And we also have other types of data types, but I'll touch on three today. I'll touch on text, I'll touch on numbers or numerics, and I'll also touch on sequences. Sequences are tuples or lists. We'll see that later on. And we also have booleans, we have sets, dictionaries, and the likes. And someone is asking what's the difference between the float and double. They are quite similar, but for those who, because of I'm taking it just okay. Someone is explaining. All right, it's quite similar, and they're quite similar. Now, so for Boolean or bool, it's either what you know, like yes or no, true or false. We'll play with that in our next session. But but let's play with the numbers now. Let's play with numbers, integers. Integers are like 4. Can you type in these numbers? 4, you click on 4, it will give you my PC, I don't know why it's a bit slow. So it will give you it will print out 4. Kindly type this. 4, these are numerics. We're playing with numerics now. Let's play with 10.1, 10.7, 10.7, and then you click on the arrow button beside. If you click on 10.7, that's a float. If you have all this, if you have typed this and you have this, can you give a thumbs up before I proceed? Now, these are floats. These are numerics. We just played with numerics. Someone said, Mokadi said, please repeat. Now, so I'll do a brief repeat. Okay, I'll repeat before I proceed. I'll just do that just briefly. Now, in I'll go back to the basics now. Languages or programming languages has its own foundations, right? And just like all languages, other languages are, English, Swahili, Sepedi, Afrikaans, and the likes. They have their own alphabets, they have their ways of, numbers and the likes. But for programming languages, let's go back to the basic, the data types. We start with text or strings. Text is when you type in alphabets or numbers, those are in programming languages, they're called strings, str, strings. I'll show you strings later on, just now, so in some few minutes. And we have numbers. In programming languages, we don't say numbers. We say numerics. We use the term numerics. Now we have different types of numbers, just like in our everyday when we play with maths. We have whole numbers. Those are numbers, they're so we for integers or whole we would rather say they are whole numbers, rather say integers, right? And for decimal points or double or stuff like, we would rather use the word floats. And we also have complex complex numbers, which I would not go into the moment. But at the same time, we also have different types. We have Boolean, which could be yes or no. We have maps, we have sets, and then lists. We'll play with all of this. Now I showed you these are numbers in numerics. 4, 7. You can try other numbers that you want to be 46, 48, and then you click on the run button beside that. Now we also have different types of You click on to have more, you click on, we have strings. For you to have strings, so an example of a complex, we'll do all that. So for strings, your strings must be in quotation marks. It could be single or double quotation marks. And then you will type in your stuff. My name is Sunday. And then these are strings. These are strings. And then I'll click on that. But if I don't have it as, and this is where I want you to see, if I don't include um, without the quotation marks, it doesn't the environment doesn't see these as strings, and that's why you have errors. I'll click on this and it will give me an error, right? So there's an invalid, this is an invalid syntax. So for strings, you must have quotation marks. It could be single quotation, or it could be should we duplicate your actions in real time, or this is, yeah, you can duplicate in real time, you can duplicate. This is hands-on. I want you to practice in real time. I'll give you, or if you have um, time. But so I can do double quotation for this and then it corrects itself. So I've shown you strings and showed you numerics, but we can also perform operations in what is the meaning of the green ticks we see after the typing the numerics. So these green ticks here, this green ticks shows that the operation or the when you run this, it was successful. If it doesn't show green ticks, it might. Okay, let's try this. Might not be. Let's see. Right. So the green tick shows you that it was successful. When you have this, shows that, oh, there's an error. I hope that answers you, Zamisa. I hope that answers your question. So for string, we can either use double quotation or single quotation roundabout that stuff. So let's quickly move on to operations. Operations. For operations, we have different types of operations. Just like in maths, you can have addition, you can have subtraction, you can also have logical or assignment and the likes. So let's play with just simple operations. 5 plus 6. Let's do 5 plus 6. That's an arithmetic operation. 5 plus 6. And then if you have 5 plus 6 as 11 in on your score, you've been able to try that out. Can you give a thumbs up before we proceed? Now, 5 plus 6 is, these are numerics. This you don't have it's not a string. That's why we don't have quotations back around that stuff. So can someone do 10 minus 2? 10 minus 2. If you have that, the results, let us know so that 10 minus 2. Good. That gives us 8. Let's move on to the next. Let's try out multiplication. Multiplication is for multiplication you need asterisks. 10 multiplied by 3. 10 multiplied by 3 should give us 30. So for multiplication, you have asterisks. Let's do one more. 10 multiplied by 10. That gives us 100. If you have 100, 10 multiplied by 10. If you have 100. Yes, someone says for now we have been using only code cells. Slim Dilly. Yes, we've only been using code cell. I'll show you how to use text cell. You will get to see it. Um, so let's do division, and then let's do division. let's do 100 divided by 300. So you have the forward slash here. Please note this. There's a forward slash. You have two types of slash, the forward and the backslash. For division, we have the forward slash. There's it. Later on we'll show you what the backward slash will. So let's do 100 divided by 3. That gives us 33.3. And then finally, let's touch on 25 divided by 3, just for you to have a feel of what division looks like. Okay. Before I move on to variables, we'll just touch on just a very important operation here. Let's square 5. Let's carry out 5, the square of 5. That's 5 asterisk 2, 5 raised to the power of 2. That's what this means. 5 raised to the power of 2. Okore is saying this Udua Okore, your question is, does space matter between operations? It doesn't matter, but it's just for readability, you might include space. Someone says square root 5, but let's not go into that for now. Let's just do 5 star 5 gives you 25, and let's do a cube. 10, sorry, I made a mistake. So, okay, let me do this so that you get. So 5, the square of 5 raised to the power of 2 gives us 25. 5 raised to the power of 3 gives us 125. I hope that is clear. So, Seva, it is accessed online. So now let's try one more. Let's find the square root. Now, please take note, the square root of 100. Square root of 100 will be 100 raised to the power of 0.5. All right, so if you have this, give a thumbs up. If you have all this, if you're cool with what we've done so far before we move on to variables, give a thumbs up. If you have a question, kindly type that in. I'll address your question. Okay, so kindly send the recording of this lecture. Lisede, that will be done later on. Okay, so that's fine. Let's move on to variables. So before we move on to variables, I just want to show you this, and then that would guide us into what variable. So what if I have an expression that states that I have to do 23 multiplied by 4 plus 45 multiplied by 2, you then had another 5. I have to do all of this. Assuming we have stuff like this. And then that means I have to, and this takes a lot, so assuming I have to repeat this several times, right? This takes, it becomes cumbersome. It takes, you don't want to keep repeating, typing all of this every now and then, and that's why we need variables, right? So variables are containers for storing data values. Someone says, can you have 2 strings like this? Sunday. Yes, we'll do that. I'll show you with respect to strings when I get to variables. I'll play with strings in some few minutes time, and then Lenga, will the syntax be the same if you descripted? Yes, it will be this on Spider scientific. Yes, it's the same. but just a little bit different in the sense that for Spider, you might need to use print to visualize your output on the screen. But that being said, let's move on to variables. So for variables are containers for storing data, right? For storing data values. Okay, so I said something, I don't want to keep repeating this, typing this. That means I can store this value 221, which is our output, um, into a container, right? So unlike in other languages, Python has no command for declaring variables. And I will explain what this means. I'll copy this and then okay, I'll just copy, oops, oh, sorry. I'll quickly copy this now. Control P. So, pressing controls. All right, so I'll copy this, I'll paste this into it. So variables help us to save or store data values. And what that means is we want to assign that value to a variable. So what it means is let me assign, I'll read this to you. This is not equals to, this does not mean equal to in Python. This symbol here means assign. What I'm doing, in other words, is I'm assigning this operation here, the value that is associated with this operation is then assigned to A. If you understand that concept, give a thumbs up before I proceed, or I will repeat again. Okay, so we have this operation, 23 multiplied by 4 plus 45 raised to the power 2 plus 4. We don't want to keep typing this every now and then. So we want this, the value associated with this operation, the operation highlighted, the value associated with it. We then save it into a container called A, such that whenever we need that value, we just type in A. Okay, so let's run this operation. This operation is quite successful, but remember that the value here is stored in A. So let's see what is in A. I'll type in A, and then I'll type. So what we see is that 2121 has been assigned to the variable called A. Are we good with this? Are you cool if you have this? If you try this out and you have this, give a thumbs up, and then we can quickly proceed because of time. All right. So let's do something cool here, and then and before we move on to the classwork, let's assign a value. Let's say 90. Let's assign the value 90 to B. Now, I'll do that by stating that B equals to 90, but it's not actually equal to, what this means is 90 has been assigned to B. When it comes to programming languages, and particular Python, it is case sensitive, and we will see this. Now, what we have here is that 90 has been assigned to the variable called B, small letter b. So type in small letter b and let's see what's in B. So for B now, the small letter, this variable called B, holds the value 90. All right, that's good. But let me point out what I just said earlier, that variables are case sensitive. Type in small letter a and see what can someone type letter A and let me know. Can 90 be equals to B? Okay, so Leona asks, can 90 be equals to B? No, it doesn't work that way. I will address that now. It doesn't work that way. So now it will prompt us, name A is not defined because we haven't assigned any value to the variable A. Good, which is right. So what we had earlier on was capital A. And let's change this to capital A and run. So in other words, this shows you that this is case sensitive. All right, well, let's carry out an operation. Let's carry out a simple operation on before we touch on arrays. Okay, we are 5 minutes behind when it comes to arrays. Okay, so uh, this is based on what someone asked. Let's create an array called capital array B, and let's assign to it this variable. The name, my name is Sunday, um, I and I am want to be. All right, so we have this. So in other words, what I'm saying is that we don't just it's not that we only assign numerics or operations. Um, you know, we don't assign those values the numeric values to variables only. We can also assign strings. We can also assign arrays to variables. Variables only help us to store data values. All right. Um, Now, I just quickly want to touch on something that was asked someone typed in this. Is this acceptable? Right? You can see that this is not acceptable. It should be the other way around. This is just to address the question that was asked earlier on, and I'll take this out. Okay, so let's now quickly we have a class assignment, class exercise, and I want you to all do this and give me the answer in with students with 15.6. What I'll do because of time, I'll copy this. The question is to find the mean. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay, the first thing is the numbers of let me see if I can copy. Sorry, I want to copy this. Because of time, and then we move on to arrays. Okay, this is our classwork. The classwork is to find the mean, arithmetic mean, and the square root. The mean is you add the numbers all together and then you divide by the number of items or number of, So in this case, we have 15.6. I'm doing it right away. So for us to have the mean, we must add the numbers together, right? And then we divide the number of items here, there are 6 or not. So we have, I'll add this. So in other words, I'm adding all the numbers together. And that will give me, that's 15.6. Let's see. So it gives me 136.87. But this is the mean, right? We want to do, and that means I will have to add this again and divide by. But remember we said something about variables. We can save this as a variable. Let's say it's called AV. You can be anything depending on what you want. I can say BB. This is just for you to know that a variable might also have a number. It could be B1, but a variable cannot start with a number. I will share this. These are the rules for when it comes to variables. So let's assume that this operation is saved as B1. Now B1, let's see what's in B1. B1 is 136.87. But the question is, let's find the mean of B1 of all this. So it will be the mean will now be mean. Let's say mean. This is the name of my variable. My variable is mean1. And so it will be B1 divided by 6. Why 6? We have 1, 2, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we divide this, this gives us, let's see what mean 1. Mean 1 is the name of our variable. So our mean is 22.8. Now let's move on to the square. The question also says find the square and the square root. So for the square now, it will be, remember for square we did asterisk, asterisk 2, right? And then for the mean, it will be, sorry, for the square root of the mean, it will be asterisk, asterisk 0.5. Sorry. Okay. If you have all of, if you're cool with this, can you give a thumbs up? Yes, 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 Jean, Makazue, your question is right. And Jean answered you just good. Okay, and then let's move on to the final aspect of today's, which has to do with arrays. If you are cool before we move on to arrays, give a thumbs up, and then we then proceed. Yeah, I can see someone, yeah, put 15 points. Okay. 67. So for K Adesemowo, yeah, you are right. But remember that our values differ now. In our own case, for this assignment, for the classwork, it's the values, they are 15.67, 12.5, 10.4, and the like. So you are right. It could be, if I guess you are right in your, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to someone says, can you repeat the mean exercise? Okay, okay, for the mean exercise, this is Luyanda. This is for you, Luyanda. And then for the mean exercise, we have student weight 15.67 for the first student, 12.5 for the second student, 10.4 for the third student, and the lastly 45.6 for the sixth student. Now we want to find the mean. Now for mean or average, we add all these numbers together and we divide by 6, right? Because there are 6 students, we divide by 6. Now, but the point here is we just don't want to add. We can do that, but we also want to practice variables, right? Now we add all of this together, and then we are then assigned that to variable called B1. It could be any, you can name your variable depending on what you want. I decide to use B1. You can use B2, you can use C1, you can use any number or variable or character. But just don't start with numbers. These are the rules. I'll share the script later on before we finish. Where you can download the script later on. And then when we had this, we have B1, and then let's see what B1 is. Another way of doing this is you can do prints, which we'll play later on in the next session, in the second session next week. Let's see what B1 is. And then this, but remember that B1 is just the addition. We need to take the mean. We need the mean, right? So for the mean, we then divide by 6. If the student weights were many, we add up. Yeah, and that's where I'll touch on that later on. We can use NumPy, and that's where we will touch on arrays. And this is Karin, and this is to answer your question. That question will be addressed when we touch on arrays. And then we divide by 6. And that gives us our mean. Is there no function? Yes, we have the function MP, .main, np.avg, we have, but we don't want to use that. We're building up on that, and that's when we touch on arrays. That's for Debbie. We'll answer that during when we touch on arrays. And then for the square of the mean, you use this double asterisk, and you have 2, which shows that it's a square. And then for the square root of the mean, remember the mean is saved in the variable mean1, and then that answers your question. Python has a library, blah, blah, blah. Yes, Python has its own library for standard derivation for mean, and that's what we will touch on now. But before we move on to, we'll just touch briefly on arrays before we end today's class. And then in our next class, I will show you how to automatically generate arrays. Okay, so arrays represent a multiple. You can for variables, right? Variables can only store single values, right? But arrays can store multiple elements. Arrays can store multiple elements, right? And it's a special type of variables. So for an array, we use NP. Remember at the beginning of when we started, we loaded a library called numeric Python, and we saved it as NumPy. So for you to have arrays, we have np.arrays, and let's address. It will be, now I did a copy and paste because of time. So this is an array. You have np.array, and then you have your brackets, and then you then have your square brackets and in within. Now we have an array because I didn't load that library. So I'll quickly load that library right away. And then we can saying NP not defined because I didn't load that library. I'll go back to the beginning. I didn't load it will be an import library for those who have done that. And then let me come back. Let me get back to this. Now this is an array. I'll create just one more array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we end today's class. We'll create an array with this, and then we end today's class. It's the same. I'll copy this. And we can save this as B2, and then we end today's class. Right? If you have this array, can you give it thumbs up? If you have this value B2, let's see if you've been able to do that. Now, so before we end today's class, I'll give you a quick rundown of what we've done. Today we looked at the introduction, we looked at the environment, we also discussed the data types, right? And then we looked at operations, we looked at the variables, and we briefly touched on arrays. In our next class, I will show you how to generate arrays automatically, and then we look at loops. Now I've just in the chat, you'll find the drive to the script for today's script. It's in here, and you can also find it on the screen. By that, I will hand over to Ray.
Sunday, thank you very, very much. Thanks to you. Thank you to everybody There were over 400 people here listening to you today. Thank you very much. This is a wonderful, vibrant community. Thank you so much for your time. And yes, to answer some of the questions in the chat, this session will be on our NITheCS YouTube channel, most probably by tonight. So for those that maybe had unstable connection or maybe had to miss a little piece, it will be available there. And then we very much look forward. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you all again next week. And if maybe you have some friends that can benefit from this, encourage them to watch the YouTube so that they can catch up and join along next week. So thank you very, very much. And don't forget, please join our NITheCS YouTube channel. And also please join our mailing list so that you will definitely in the future get amazing events such as this that is free and available for you to grow and develop. So thank you very, very much. All the best. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we see you again next week. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Sunday. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Bye bye. See you
Bye-bye,
next week.
everyone. Take care. See you next week. Bye-bye.